In today's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business, we dissect the pros and cons of having a female-led industry.
I honestly don't know where I thought about this topic, but I know where we were. We were at that Edition Dog live event, and whether or not we were talking to someone or if it was something we were seeing, but I wrote down in my little notes that, don't you think it's interesting, ? That this industry is predominantly women, and whether or not there is a correlation between women having a problem with charging for services.
So where do you think that comes from then, if it is a woman-specific thing?
I don't know, because, I mean, arguably, there's a lot of stereotypes in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
More dog trainers are women.
Yeah.
Is one.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we're scared to charge more.
Yeah.
Is it to do with the fact that we are, again, generalising, sweeping statement, generally supported by husbands that are supporting us?
Yeah.
With high-paid employed jobs
Yeah.
that are safe?
Also, I'm very aware that this may not be the PC things to be saying, but arguably it's just our opinion, it's our thoughts on things. And I just thought it was quite a fascinating connection to go, oh yeah, look, we're women, and we go, did we have a problem with charging for things at one point? Yes. Why is that? And again, looking at the stereotypes of everything, that maybe it does feel a little bit harder to charge for it. Or on the flip side of that, let's look at it in a different way, that dog trainers, man or woman, will have, potentially they start it off as like a side hobby business. So you would make massive assumptions on that the bulk wage is being looked after by somebody else, like a partner, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So you're easily afforded more time to maybe not make as much money.
Or even if you have the paid employed job and it's your side hustle,
yeah,
you may compare it to the day job and going, well, I can't charge as much as that one. Because we've had this with people that have worked with us, haven't we, that have had a really good paid employment job that they've got sick of, frustrated with, don't believe in anymore, and they want to do dog training as their passion. And yet the job that they might do as an employed job, it's in the industry it's in, is not scared of charging amounts. Now, it might not be that you're receiving that high amount to yourself, but the industry itself is happy to charge out at whatever price. But in the same vein, your head can't switch into the same thinking with your dog business. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stumbling blocks with it. And I think where that initial thought was when I had it, I still don't know what actually prompted it, but the thought again that women on a stereotypical level are supposedly more nurturing, more a bit maternally, if you will. So maybe that emotional side of it is factored in a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's that whole, well, I really care about the outcome here.
The burden is taken on.
Yeah, that's a really good way of looking at it. Like, yeah, that burden of I need to help you with your dog. Or if almost that concern then of, oh, well, if you don't go to me, then I can't be in control of what happens next.
Maybe and it's a control thing.
Yeah.
An inadvertent control.
Yeah. So maybe it's not even like that conscious worry about who or where they're going to go to, but it's more like, oh, that caring nature bit of, but I can help and I want to help and I feel like I need to help. So if I can, I will. And if you can only afford this, then that's okay. I'll take that. And we take on that burden of everything, really. And again, I'm very conscious that we are massively stereotyping here. But even if I put myself in the role of being a mum, the amount of stuff that I take on my plate, it doesn't feel like it's too much. I mean, it does, don't get me wrong, but it becomes normal. You almost normalize it that, right, we have to look after all these things and you have to just keep everything moving.
And I actually think if you're a mom or not, that's the case. You tend to look after the household.
You do, yeah.
You tend to have to think about all the logistics when you go on holiday. Who looks after this? Who's coming in to feed the cat? Who's coming in to look after the dogs? The actual arranging all of the pre-stuff, like getting food in, if you're going to take food with you. Like, it usually falls down to the woman to sort all of those things out. And yes, there will be occasions where it isn't that. But I think in a general sense, multitasking comes very easy to us.
Yeah.
And we don't feel like it's necessarily a chore to take things on like that. It's just part and parcel of who we are and what we're made up as.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why, again, you do see trends, I suppose, don't you, in like caring industries where they are predominantly
carers, for example. You do get men, but it's normally a woman.
It's predominantly female led.
Nurses, same.
But what impact do you think that has on the business? Let's look at the pros and cons of it. So let's go with the pros. What's good about being in that space from a business point of view?
You come across as approachable.
Mm-hmm.
You are empathetic. You can slot into situations probably quite easily.
Yeah.
Maybe quite good at putting yourself in the position of the person who's going through the pain.
Yeah.
All of those things.
I think as a business owner as well, you can multitask a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I'm transferring that skill over of like managing that household and all the people in it and all the dogs and all the chickens and all the other stuff that we've certainly got going on. I think that multitasking bit is really a pro from a business point of view. Almost that not necessarily being afraid to take on something new. Like, you may feel overwhelmed with it initially, but there's pros
take it under your wing.
Yep. So we'll just figure it out. So then, cons.
Taking on too much.
Yep.
Not having enough time for you.
Not putting yourself first.
Never putting yourself first, probably. Overwhelming yourself with all of the things that there are to do. So let's look at that multitasking one. Multitasking can be a good thing, but it also can be negative because you maybe you don't complete the tasks. So you start a bit of one task, you don't finish it, you see something else that needs doing, you go to that, and you just have lots of unfinished business.
Yeah.
Do that.
And actually for me, and I think this is where we can almost bring everybody into the fold. Specifically, I think on this type of level, when we're talking about females and predominantly being a female-led industry, you could look at that as it's female energy. So you've got masculine and feminine energies, haven't you?
Yeah.
And when anybody is in feminine energy, that's when you're in that caring mode. So there will absolutely be males out there that live in feminine energy. And likewise, there's lots of females out there that live in masculine energy.
Yeah.
I know that's exactly the space that I live. I am predominantly masculine energy more often than not. What about you? What do you think?
I would say that I cross over. But if you ask my husband, he'd say, oh my God, my wife's a bloke. Only because I like spending time with men. I like their no nonsense approach. I like the like black and white of men. And it doesn't bother me hanging out with men. And I just like that. Yeah, just no nonsense stuff. But then also I am really caring and I will try and help if I can. Probably overgive.
Yeah.
So I think you can cross over from one to the other.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And I think
I don't know what I would say I'm more of. Not sure.
No, I'm trying to think now. So for me, like when I'm in masculine energy, I know that I am in, from a business point of view, I am in almost breadwinner mode. Like I have to bring in the cash. I have to make sure that the business works. I have to manage all the stuff. I have to make sure that the kids' childcare is arranged, like all the organising stuff. I have to make sure that if Darren's got work, then I haven't, and I'm constantly being aware of all of those moving parts. And for me, that's that masculine energy, because we're taking charge. So if you wind back into olden days, if you will, I was going to say courting then, like the courtship period of life, that masculine and feminine energy shows up a lot, doesn't it? Like typically speaking.
I'll pay. I'll drive you.
Women like to be looked after by the men.
Oh, yeah.
And I think as time has gone on, and this is where, again, it chops and changes depending on the situations. It's like, I know if I was to go back into dating world now, I would probably slink back into feminine energy.
I've got a little story about this.
Go on.
On mine and Gareth's first date, I drove and I paid because he forgot his wallet.
I did the same with Darren. His car broke down and he was like, can you drive? I was like, yeah.
Well, Gareth's was, I'm sweaty from the gym. Can you drive?
Nice.
But kind of, it set the precedent for, like, I could have run away at that point, couldn't I? And gone, oh my God. And actually I went, I quite like this. Like, yeah, you're not your typical bloke that is gonna, and I don't like that being swept off my feet. I'm just like, oh God, no.
Yeah.
It's being taken care of a little bit, but not too much. Like, it's icky for me if someone tries to I've had that before where I've been like, oh my God, no, don't even touch my hand in a pub. Don't even like try and put your hand on my knee.
Yeah. And I think, like, as a business owner, this shows up and can cause a lot of potential problems in the business and outside of it. So I know for a fact that I beat myself up a fair amount, actually, that I'm not the best wife I can be because I'm in masculine energy, which in turn has meant that Darren's more in feminine energy because that's the role I've created. Like, I've created this situation where he's looked after. And don't get me wrong, he's not looked after in that sense, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of the work that's already been done. I'm conscious that I'm bringing the money in. So I'm constantly always in that state of being. So it's really hard then to have like a day in the office, if you will, where we're like, right, yeah, look what we're doing and we're planning and we're organising this and we're doing this 6-figure business stuff. Mm-hmm. To then go, you're going to like wine and dine me now and like just slip back into a normal routine. And again, what even is normal? Because I'm still in that masculine energy when I'm going to look after the kids. Like, yes, it's that maternal side. So there's that element of that femininity. God, I have to really think about all these bleeding words today. Yeah. Super hard words.
Tongue twisters.
Indeed. But looking after them is still an element of you're crossing over into both. So you've got like that maternal, nurturing, feminine side of it, but it's not me being looked after, it's me looking after.
Yeah, but I also think if you're in that role of going, we need to get shit done, and that's what we're in at the moment with business, of like, there isn't any downtime really, although we are in a bit of a lull situation at the moment because there's nothing urgent that we've got to do for a certain day. So that at present, that will change. But it's still like, we're on it. We want to grow it. We want this goal to really hit. Like, we want to make this big impact. So how can you then go from like going like treating like the perspective of business being like that, and then you just go, oh, now I'm a mum, I have to like forget all of that stuff and just be mumsy. Like, how hard must that be? Like, I'm sure it is really hard. And also, I suppose, for me now,
even like stepping back into the wife role though, it's again like air quote wife role. It's
but also like, look at the kind of challenges that we've had recently with the transition of me growing as a person and growing this business, is that my role at home has now changed. I'm there a lot less. I'm not there to take care of the dogs like I used to be. So I'm having to sort that part of my life out that I've never really had to consider before. And tea isn't on the table at a certain time. Now, this is going to make it sound like Gareth's really chauvinist. He isn't at all, but he's used to that for so many years. I've been there and I've been able to to fulfill that role. And now I'm not there. And so that has been a real transitional period for us, actually. And now this is a new normal. So it's not any worse. It's just that this has now become something, how things are now is this.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question for you then. When you were doing the dog training as you first started it, and you had all these services and it was all that type of world compared to now, how did you see yourself as a business owner, like looking back now, so doing that reflective work, looking at the business you had back then? Do you feel like you slipped into any more stereotypes potentially, or that a different energy?
Yeah, actually, looking back, I was probably more feminine energy then, and probably did do the stereotypical things of, there were 2 nights a week where I wasn't there for making dinner, but I'd always there'd be instructions given. There would be a little note of, this is what you need to do here. Or even I would cook tea before I left and leave it in the oven ready for it to be warmed up easily. So I always tried to make things as easy as possible for everyone, even though my job meant that I was out of the house till, God, back then, sometimes 11 o'clock at night. So I'd go, oh no, I have to think of everybody else before I just go to work or do the thing I need to do.
Yeah.
So I suppose, was a bit more feminine.
How did that show up in the business?
Sure, it's really funny because it was a business, but I don't really feel like it was.
Do you reckon that's part of it though?
Maybe. It's really, really strange now you've asked me that, because I'm like, it was such a different type of business that it was just my job. It didn't really feel like my business.
That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? I've only just really thought about that. Oh, epiphany moment on the podcast as we speak.
I think that's where, like, I keep thinking, I don't even know if there is a purpose to this chat today, but I just thought it was really interesting to look at, because we have a lot of blokes coming and working with us as well. Yeah. And
it's actually really nice that we do.
Yeah, but we love it.
Work with us.
So big up all the men out there in this industry, because we know you feel a bit outnumbered.
Yeah.
And it's I just find it fascinating, because again, we're all dealing and working with behaviour, and we're all dealing and working with a whole other species where we've had to learn about all this stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? It's got me thinking now. The men that we've worked with, if you're listening, I think there's all like elements of feminine energy in all of the men that we've worked with.
Yeah, and I think it's a trait of when you're working with in that kind of caring role. However, what I find interesting, and again, this is a stereotype, but I've found that men we've worked with on a whole, and again, there are allowances and differences, but on a whole, seem to be more, I don't know what's the word, like how to phrase it, more up for going, right, okay, what's the money? What do I need to do? How do I get the structure in? And a bit more leaning into that masculine energy from a business point of view. So not the delivery element. I think the delivery element is where you dip into that feminine again. But then to run the business, arguably it's that take charge energy. Yeah. I remember doing an exercise once. I was at a conference, and weirdly there was relationship experts as one of the speakers, which was really like a curveball because it was a business thing. And they asked us to stand up and find a partner of the opposite sex. So there all us women are with all these men, and they asked us to do these 2 exercises. They said, just imagine that you've got like a big scary lion or a dragon or something that is coming towards you and is going to like attack you. And then you've now got your knight in shining armour in front of you. So ladies, be ladies, air quote, go into your feminine energy. And then the men have to, and they literally made the men like charge in front of us and go like, I'll protect you. And it was really funny, and everyone like pissed themselves laughing. But then we had to role reverse it. So then it was like the women stood in front of the men and then went, I'll protect you. And again, once all the laughing and the silliness had subsided, they asked us how we all felt about it. And from like that intrinsic space, the women were like, do you know, it's actually really nice for the men to step up and go, they're going to protect you. And the men hated it when the women did it to them. It made them feel really icky and horrible.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you were first saying the first bit of that and you said the man has got to protect the woman, I was like, oh my God, I'd want to protect myself as well. I don't know if I trust them.
You had to go into the hypothetical space of like, it's knight in shining armor. But yeah, it was really fascinating just having felt it and gone, oh, that is an intrinsic thing. Because arguably, I mean, how many times do I say to you, I'm like, it's probably easier sometimes to be by yourself and just crack on and just get it all done because it's just easier to do it. But it was and I remember telling Darren this story and he was like, yeah, it's not nice when you kind of come in and do all of this. And I was like, but it's really hard to kind of get out of that. So it does impact your relationships with people as well.
Do you think it's also sometimes the way you are personality-wise with being a bit of a perfectionist potentially? Because I know, when, I'm sure you'll all be able to relate to this, the dishwasher filling up, right? Something like the dishwasher. Way men fill a dishwasher. And I'm saying men in a really broad sense, but in my experience of a couple of them, they don't do it very well. And me ending up taking it all out and rearranging it again. And actually, Gareth's dad, he does this to Gareth's mum. Like he'll take everything out and redo it. So he's got that kind of thought process about it. But I'm like, do you know what? Don't do it because I'm going to end up redoing it anyway. And I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I don't think anything bad's going to happen with the dishwasher, but I'm just not happy about that. So whether that's a whole other subject of something else, but I'm just like, do you know what? Just leave it. Even though I get annoyed that he leaves it and doesn't put them in the dishwasher, then when he does put it in the dishwasher, it's not right anyway.
Yeah, I just find it's just so interesting. Like, even when you were saying that, then I'm like, does that even link in with this? Or is it personality profiles? Or is it, because ultimately everything's just a bit of everything, isn't it? But I do find that masculine and feminine energy, like, really interesting because I see it show up in how people run their businesses and how when you are in a certain space, and again, it's getting out of the mindset that it's a man or woman thing. It's that energy preference that you slink in and out of in that sliding scale bit. Because arguably, if we were in feminine energy for our business and this podcast, it probably wouldn't exist.
No.
Because we're in the wrong energy space to take charge and go, right, this is what needs doing. This needs to happen. And it's
It's the drive behind it as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's slipping into that space.
Yeah.
So again, even just using that little exercise that those relationship coaches made us do. It's like, well, if I'm going to step in charge and look after someone, arguably you're stepping in front of your client and going, I'm going to help you here.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. And then when we're in, so that's the initial bit. It's like, yes, look, I'm here. Sign up with me. I can help protecting you from the dragon or whatever it may be. And then when they're working with you, it's like, oh, right, okay. Now we're in the hard bit's done, the scary bit's been dealt with. We've saved you. Now we can start working on it.
That almost can lead back to the customer journey, can't it? Like the guidance to be able to get to you from the initial awareness through that onboarding process. And I'm aware that some people don't know what onboarding means. It just means that process from somebody being aware of you all the way through to like starting to work with you. But that can kind of come across a little bit, I want to say, like meek and mild. Like who were we talking to about the lack of structure? And it's like, where's the confusion coming from? It's because there isn't that lack of that there isn't a set structure and the processes are a bit dodge. And therefore, is someone going to really feel confident that you're the right person to take them through? Because every little impression counts, doesn't it? Right from that first bit of awareness right through to the job done, you finish working with somebody, like it should feel like you are the person that is going to take them through the entire process. So don't think of that first bit as like, oh, we'll just get through that how we are able to get through it. It's like, no, that's the very first part of this. And we need somebody to feel trust in you right from the outset. And with CBA, we really try our hardest to make sure that that first impression is carried all the way through.
Yeah.
And if we don't, and if we make mistakes, we're human, sometimes things fail us, we'll learn from it for next time and make sure that we do put a better process in place for next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that could be classed as your male masculine energy coming through, couldn't it?
I think it is, though, because it is that it's that taking control of it and going, and I think that ties in nicely with thinking about your prices as well, because if you're in that feminine energy, that meek and mild side of it,
well, yeah, because it's
and a bit
almost
caring,
like
it's
you
like,
choose.
Yeah.
If you want, you can. And it's
Yeah.
like, most people are going to go, will you just tell me?
Yeah.
I want you to
tell me what it is, and I'm either in or out.
Yeah. and tell me which option is best for me. Like when there's all these plethora of choices that we've talked about so many times, someone wants the answer to be told, okay, so I could choose puppy class, adult class, one-to-one, puppy this, adult that. Like I could choose all of those, but which one do I really need? Which one do you think I really need? And if that question is coming up, like we've just done another episode sort of similar on this topic, but it's, if they're having to ask, it's not clear enough anyway.
Yeah.
And surely like you should be embracing the fact that you're the professional and you can guide that person into the right funnel of the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so like own it and be like, oh my God, amazing that you think that I can be the person that's going to take you through this and help you with that choice.
Yeah.
So there is definitely that need to be masculine, even if you don't think that you are or you don't think it's necessary. I absolutely think it is.
Yeah. I would definitely implore anyone who's interested in this to go and research it a little bit more, because it is, I find it fascinating. Yeah. And if you like geeking out on dog behaviour, then you should like human behaviour as well, because it is fascinating. And the more we get to understand each other as well, because it will show up in your client relationships.
Yeah.
Like, again, if we're a predominantly female heavy industry, even think about who's reaching out to you. So are your clients typically male or female as well? And how are they showing up? What energy space are they in? And where can you meet them? Because sometimes it's not appropriate to meet at the same thing. So if you think, going back to that dating example, if you both show up to those early dating days, and again, let's face it, and I know it's a gender stereotype, but you would typically expect the man to pay. So you go, well, if both of you are meeting at the same energy, and we're going, oh, well, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? It's a bit weird, and it doesn't,
a bit of confusion,
yeah,
isn't it?
But it makes you feel really uncertain
yeah.
about those next steps. It's like, not sure how I feel about this here. And again, I'm conscious of all this PC stuff as well, but like, even if it's the same sex couple, you're still going to have one person that needs to lead and go, right, which energy space are we leading into here?
Yeah.
So it's the same even when you're dealing with your clients, of going, right, where are you? How can we meet you? How can I be the guide in this bit? And then how can we soften off and do this?
Yeah, and it also, I know this comes up quite a lot as well, when it actually came up with a client this week about if you're a young female in an industry where you might be helping middle-aged men with their dogs, for example, that can be quite intimidating, or it can seem quite intimidating, and especially like a middle-aged male anyway. Like in your head, you might go, oh God, like they're older than me. Are they going to listen to me? Are they going to value what I'm going to say? But also then if they're a bit authoritarian in their approach, that can make us really change the way that we might do something, and actually feel really intimidated. So I think that masculine energy, although you don't want to clash with somebody, needs to almost step up a little bit so that you can be the, actually, I'm still the professional here and I'm still going to guide you. And, despite what you may be conveying to me or how it's coming across to me, I actually still want to be that person who can make you feel confident that I am going to know my stuff. I do know what I'm talking about, even though I'm young. And I used to have this when I worked at the Blue Cross, because I was like, oh God, how old was I? Like 23 or something when I started working there. So I would get challenged a lot. Someone wanted that dog and they couldn't have it. You're younger. How many dogs have you had? Like it's that kind of thing. Well, okay, I might not have had many dogs because all I'd had then is my family dogs at home, which predominantly you don't care for yourself, do you? Your parents do. But how many dogs am I caring for? And how many different breeds and how many different problems am I navigating through every day? And it's not my job to argue the toss with that person and say, actually, because I never did that. But it's like, I can show you that I know my stuff without having to challenge you and argue back with you, and to just show that confidence in you. And I used to do it in such a way where people would, oh, okay, right, that's the fair point, So it's having that confidence in yourself, I guess, but to stick with what your beliefs are. And again, this comes back to values and purpose and all of that other stuff. It's always interlinked.
Yeah. Which was a bit of an interesting curveball conversation today, wasn't it?
It was.
Should do more like this.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
I like it when we've got a bit of a subject matter, but we don't really know where it's going to go.
Well, if you enjoyed listening to today's episode and want us to do more curvebally ones like this, then do reach out to us on the DMs on our social platforms. And we look forward to finding out what you want us to chat about next.